Here at Pishkur, Adrean High School since 77, 8 state championships in Indiana, now tied for the state record and over 1,000 wins. Coach Pishkur, thanks for coming on with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, Ryan.
Yeah, all roads lead back to Indiana. And I love how humble you are because when I reached out to you, you're like, why would you want to interview me?
And that's still my question.
Oh, stop. Stop. Hey, what did Ken Schreiber mean to your career?
It was kind of cool. My very first year was 1980, and I remember the very first clinic I attended was LaPorte used to have a clinic in December. And not playing in a great high school program or playing in a very competitive collegiate program, when I went and listened to him speak, he just opened up like a lot of new doors. Like, this is what you should be doing. This is the way you run a program. And even though I never played for the man, I kind of consider him like a mentor because he was the first guy that had the clinic, and he had the clinics for years and years. And it seemed like no matter what clinic you went to, he spoke at it. So you're always getting the gospel according to Ken Schreiber. And then fortunately, the second year that at Andrean, I called him and said, would you be interested in playing Andrean? And he said, absolutely. And there was only one caveat, that we had to go to LaPorte every year. So for 20 years, we went and played Schreiber at LaPorte Field, but it was great for us. And again, just to be, their field was pristine. He was old school, disciplined. His programs, they competed. He meant a lot to establishing what I did as a baseball coach in the early 80s and to this day.
What were some things that he was doing that you weren't?
Well, first of all, he had a nice field, and we didn't. Our field was Andrean, when I took over, wasn't really noted for a baseball program. It probably was more football, basketball school. And I remember dragging the field with my car and a tire behind it. And the baselines were that big that I could just keep on going around and around. And he used to say, you could tell a lot about your program by the field that you play on. And so we made sure that every year we added something to the field. So that was the first thing. Just the way he comported himself and his teams. His teams always dressed the same. Not that I agree with it, but every kid had to have a certain haircut, and they had to wear the pants the same way, and they hustled on and off the field like nobody else did. And that was mystique as you came into that stadium. It was like playing on a minor league baseball field. They're orange, and their fans were kind of boisterous and raucous, and they had a radio station. It wasn't high school baseball. It was bigger than high school baseball. So we wanted to try to emulate as many things as we could and take from LaPorte High School.
They had the old school three-stripe stirrups too. Like
They
that
did.
was the thing that stuck out to me about Laporte. They had a crazy color scheme because it was
It was
bright.
orange and
Yes, but
black,
that's the
I
thing
think.
that
Yeah.
stuck out because we wore stirrups at Memorial, but it was the colored. We were a little more traditional with our look at Memorial, but it was the same thing at Memorial. Like everybody had to dress the same. Like you couldn't vary. Coach Merkel, it's for me, Coach Merkel at Memorial and Coach Schreiber up north. It seemed like they were very similar as
Yes.
coaches back in those days.
Well, you could have like Bill Jones and there was a lot of those mentors in that early stages that developed the IHSAA, and they were the guys that you listened to, and you tried to emulate what they did, and again you tried to model your program after the successful programs that they had.
When you redid your field, where was the first place you started? Did you start with the grass? Did you start with the skinned part? Where was the first place you started when you tried
We
to change
did
it?
we did number one, we did not have a fence in the outfield, and number two, we didn't have a fence in the dugout. I'm not kidding you. Our dugout butted up to the parking lot. And when we sat on the bench in 1980, the fans sat on our bench with us. There was nothing to distinguish the baseball team from the fans. And it was, I guess, as you look back at it, it was kind of funny, but it was different. So the first thing we did is put a fence around the entire field. That was the first thing we did. And then in 84, we killed all the grass and started off from scratch. Funny thing about it, we went to Comiskey Park, and Roger Bossert, that is still there.
The sod father.
Um, yes, he was going to give us the infield grass because every year at the end of the season they take it up and put new grass on. So we don't go down there, and walking on Comiskey Park was, gosh, it was, the grass was 3/4 of an inch and no blade was out of order. And he said, after the Michael Jackson concert this weekend, we're going to roll it up. You bring in a truck in and you could have that. And it was like, oh, you're kidding me. We could have it. Yep, you could have it. Unfortunately, it rained through the Michael Jackson weekend concert. I call him Monday, goes, you don't want this stuff anymore. It is just, it's torn up. And it was unfortunate, but we just started from scratch. We killed the whole infield and seeded, and we didn't play a game in 84. We were on the road the whole year. Coming back 85, we had a fence now, and we had a nice infield grass, and we just tried to add something every year to that.
I was going to ask you when you did the grass, because with your weather, obviously you have a short window of when you got to be able to get the grass down with your winter up north.
Yeah, so we did it in the springtime. So we did not play. I don't think we practiced we didn't practice at Andrean or play a home game in 84. And I'm trying to think right now, where did we practice? Unless we went in the outfield or something like that. But that was kind of funny. We were the Road Warriors that year, and the grass took place, and I think it's the same original grass. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different forms of grass seeds that are in that infield now, but it's still pretty nice field in this day of turf fields. And, you still have to work the field, which at my age is it's not fun anymore. I don't mind sitting on the tractor, but I'm not fond of edging the field and sweeping off the water. And, all the things that you have to do as a baseball coach is kind of taking its toll on me that way. I like the coach, but I'm not a field man anymore. So hoping for the day that turf comes to our field.
I have a former player at Western Illinois. He's coaching in Indianapolis now, and he texted me the other day. He goes, Coach, I appreciate you having us do all the field work at Western Illinois. He goes, and by the way, I figured out why you like to drag the field so much. He goes, it's one of the most relaxing things I get to do in a day.
So, yeah, so true. It is kind of the fun thing at the end of the game or whatever. And
it helped me decompress. That was a big part for me as a coach of I liked dragging the field. Even though I was a head coach, I liked doing it because it helped me kind of decompress after the game.
Yeah, it is, again, a little relaxing. And before you address your team, you're kind of dragging and saying, well, what do I want to say to them now? Because they're doing their job too. They're taking care of the mound, taking care of home plate, getting their running in and the pitchers and cleaning out the dugout. So you have like a 5-minute window when you're dragging the kind of thing. All right, how are we going to address them? What are we going to talk about?
So you talk after the game with them?
You know what? We did for many, many years, and now we don't. What I do now is we have this thing called Final Forms. It's an opportunity for me I could literally print out what I thought about and then send it to the kids. So they usually get it at night. We play almost every team we play. When the game is over, they go out in the right field or left field. They kneel down and the coach addresses them. And we did that for a while. And we even did things where, okay, let's talk together as coaches, see what we need to say, and then we'll go talk to them. And now I just feel like if I wait like 2 hours and just write down everything, I just feel like it's better for me. It might not be, I don't know if they're reading it or not, but it's, I like that process a little better right now.
Hey, by the way, big league fields have gotten smarter. I saw the Foo Fighters at Wrigley Field a long time ago, but they put like corrugated plastic down now in the outfield grass so the grass doesn't get beat up.
So we could have had that field if they had done
that. Yes, you would have had this side. Now, how does it feel to be tied with Coach Schreiber for state championships in Indiana?
You know what? I hate to say this, but it's my coach from Lafayette. Coach Tim Bordenet and we both have 8. Schreiber only has 7.
Oh, good for you guys.
Scott Up has the 8th one for them.
Okay, that's right.
So, yeah.
That's right, Coach. His kids played at IUPU Fort Wayne, actually.
Yes. So, what the thing with, we played Schreiber, and he would call us the fish eaters and stuff like that because of Catholics, and there's 2 Catholic coaches that have more state champs than him does. So that's probably driving him nuts right now.
And Coach Bordenet's done a great job too.
He's an awesome coach, great athletic director, really good dude.
Yeah. When you got to Andrean, you coached volleyball, JV baseball, and then freshman hoops, correct?
Yeah, I did. You did your homework.
Yeah, there's a lot out there on you actually. So, did you want to coach varsity baseball?
That was what I wanted more than anything. So I remember working in a sporting goods shop. I was coach for the very first year, and I get a call from the athletic director who was an athletic director when I was at Andrean. And he called me and he said, "Hey, would you want to be the volleyball coach?" And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about volleyball." He goes, "Well, it's a chance to get your foot in the door." I said, "Yeah, sign me up for that." I said, "But I really want to coach baseball, coach." And he said, "Well, we're working on it." And not more than a week later, he goes, "Hey, Dave, how about coaching freshman basketball?" I said, "Yeah, that'd be great, but can I get baseball?" He goes, "Well, we're working on that." And then finally, like a couple of weeks later, he goes, "Hey, would you want to be the JV baseball coach?" And it's about time he asked me the right question. So I did those three sports for the first year, and then the next year he resigned and let me be the coach. In fact, that year when I coached a JV, we're in sectional time, and he goes, "Hey, do you want to coach third base for the sectional?" I said, "Perfect." So I was able to coach. It was a short game. It was one game and out, so we didn't do very well. But yeah, it was something I always wanted. My uncles were minor league baseball players, and one of my uncles coached at Calumet High School. My dad coached me through Little League and everything. So I think that was in my blood that I wanted to do. It was funny when I was a kid growing up, I would have, the paper route was the longest I stayed at a job. I stayed at for 1 year. I remember having jobs, and it was I worked to 4 o'clock, and they said, "Well, you got to work overtime." I said, "No, I got a baseball game. I can't." He goes, "Well, then you're going to be fired." I said, "Well, then I'm done." And that was I must have had 10 jobs in high school, and nothing lasted more than a month. And my parents probably thought, this guy's never going to have a job. And I get what I wanted, the baseball coach, and I've been there for 43 years. So that was what I wanted to do. So I'll tell our kids, you know what, the most important thing is find something that's going to make you happy, where you could live life and enjoy going to work every day. And I don't think there's many days in those 43 years that I said, "Man, I got to go to practice today." It's like, "Hey, what can I create at practice? How could I make them better today?" It's just what I think, meant to do.
That's one of my favorite quotes is find something that you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life.
So true. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think I was going to love it like I did, but it was just something. I've always been a very competitive person, always been a person that's been lucky. When I was 8 years old, we won, and times are so different. Everybody plays travel ball now. There was no such thing as travel ball back when I played. You played Little League for your town, and that was it. You played 20 games. And so when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, no, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, my team won it every year. And the one year we didn't was when I was 11, and it was a 2 out of 3 game series to win it. I pitched game 1. We lost 2-1. We won game 2. I came back and pitched game 3, and we lost 1-0. And I can't tell you how long I cried because I didn't win. So I've always think I've been a competitive guy, no matter what it's been. And as long as you have that, I think you could pass that on to your kids a little bit.
Yeah, you and I are similar. I played at Eastside Little League in Evansville, and 11 and 12. We didn't lose a game, but part of that is Kevin Hardy, who played linebacker for the Jaguars, was our center fielder, and then
Okay.
Robbie Kent was our shortstop, who played at Notre
Oh my
Dame and
gosh.
Arizona State, and then Ryan
Yeah,
Barrett.
yeah.
Ryan Barrett was our best pitcher and first baseman, but he went to Evansville with me, and then I caught. So that team rolled through the Evansville circuit for Little
We
League.
had great memories. I mean, those are things you think about every once in a while, and you don't necessarily relay that to your kids, but you think about, like, yeah, when I was 12, I was a lot better than you were, and but it's a
I was
whole
not
different
though.
ball game.
I wasn't. I was the exact opposite. I was back there because I could catch the ball and I would block, and then I couldn't even get the ball to second base. I had to skip throws. Luckily, Robbie Kent was so good that I could skip throws to second base and we would get guys out. And luckily, my Little League coach was smart enough to be like, "Hey, just get rid of it as quick as you can, and Robbie Kent will catch it."
Yeah, I don't. I'm thinking you're probably being too humble because knowing
That's
your
not
past. Yeah.
no. If you would
No.
have seen me back then, I didn't get okay until probably my senior year of high school. Honestly,
Okay.
I was a good teammate and tried hard, but I
Yeah.
just physically was way behind everybody else in my peer group. Hey, was PE the track for you then in college?
Yes. It's PE in health, driver's education, and yeah. So again, I still remember they bring me in and say, "We'd like you to be part of the Andrean. Can you teach U.S. history?" I said, I probably could teach it, but I've taken 6 hours of U.S. history. And they said, well, if you want in, you got to teach history. I said, okay, sign me up. So I taught history my first 2 or 3 years, and it was all I could do to stay a chapter ahead of the kids because I wasn't very good. I didn't know that much about it, and I did my best. My uncle kind of moderated and helped me as much as I possibly could, but it wasn't until they put me in the phys ed and health where I finally felt, okay, now I'm comfortable. Now I know where I'm at. But it was kind of rewarding. I mean, I had some great kids in that U.S. history, like Dan Dockich and Jim Bullock, the guys who played Big Ten basketball and Big Ten baseball, and those were my first groups, and and we're still close friends. But it was a different environment, the classroom compared to the phys ed room. That's a whole different ball games. But I think I was a lot more comfortable in the phys ed department.
Well, when my dad got to Evansville in '79, people think this is crazy. He took a pay cut coming from high school to go coach college, but then baseball wasn't his only job. He worked for the athletic department. He taught classes. He was officiating high school football games and then college basketball games back then. For a Division I baseball coach, like the guys that are coaching now,
Yeah,
to think about how far it's come from '79, and even high school baseball has come so far from back then to now.
well, when I was growing up, I just remember like Ron Santo and the Cubs guys, when their season was over, they got jobs at, I don't know, there was probably not Walmart at that time, but they got jobs in the wintertime to be able to, to support the family because they weren't making $52 million a year like they are nowadays. So it was totally different. So I do remember my dad and my uncles, who were educators. When the summer came around, they did driver's education or they did something else to supplement the income because mom stayed at home and she was a stay-at-home mom. So she didn't work. So dads had to work 12 months of the year, even though it was a 9-month job as an educator.
Is Greg Yursich the best player to come out of Andrean? I saw him at the Silver and Black. The first Silver and Black was at Northern Illinois that the White Sox put together. He was there. It's still the best high school arm I've ever seen behind the dish. And I've been to Perfect Game National. I've been to PBR. I've been to all the national events. His arm is still the best high school catching arm I've ever seen.
He's the best catcher I've ever had. And his arm, I mean, he only was at our school 1 year. He was at St. Rita for 3 years, and he did something that he got thrown out of St. Rita. They moved to
I know his grades weren't good. That was the thing. I was at Iowa, and I made the call, and then as soon as his transcript showed up, I called him. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, we can't do anything with this transcript.
No, but he ends up going to go to a school in our area called Boone Grove, which is it's a smaller school. And I was coaching Team Indiana at that time, and we're trying to put together a roster, and I'm talking to the Jimmy Hall and some of those guys from Illinois, and I said, I can't find a catcher. He goes, there's a catcher in Indiana that you might want. I said, what do you mean there's a catcher in Indiana? He just moved to your area. His name is Greg Yursich. Why don't you call him? So I called him. I said, hey, would you want to play for Team Indiana? He goes, unfortunately, I'm playing for the area code games that week. I said, well, this guy's really good. I said, where are you going to school? He goes, I'm going to go to Boone Grove. I said, and you're there now? He goes, yeah, they're working me out at shortstop. And I said, you know what, if you come to this school over here, you play catcher. And he ended up coming to Andrean, and we won our first state championship and beat Evansville Memorial for that state championship. And Greg made the first and third outs of the first inning in that state championship game. But he was
seventh round draft pick.
Yes. Got a $100,000 bonus, and I think he bought like a $50,000 car with it.
Hey, was Kyle Gibson on that Team Indiana team that you coached?
He was. Kyle was, yes.
I missed that tournament. I thought that was one of the end of that was kind of the end of the summer recruiting circuit back then.
And it was so much fun because you got the good players and you played all the other ones, and there was a lot of scouts there. And then all of a sudden, Grand Park builds up, and now they're having Under Armour games and other and nobody was coming anymore. So. That was fun times. I did it for about 12 years. I had Lance Lynn on a team. I had Kyle Gibson on one of my teams. Some really good ball players that
was a perfect event for a college coach because you had two fields right next to each other.
Right next to each other. Yeah. We played at
Plainfield South.
And Plainfield South. Yes. They moved it around a little bit. Yes, that was awesome. And Jimmy Hall, and I'm trying to think of the guy who ran that tournament.
Harvey Foster.
Harvey Foster. There you go. I think Harvey's out in California now, but
good man, Harvey.
He was a salesman.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Well, and you're an example of persistence. It took you 25 years to win your first one. I mean, did you ever think you were going to win one?
No, No, you know what? When we won the sectional the very first year, and that was his greatest feeling as any of our state championships because we just were not very good. You know, we were coming off a 9-9 season, but I tell him how hard it was. We were spoiled the first year we won the sectionals, but we had a really good team, and the two teams that could have beat us played each other, and one upset the other, and then somebody upset them. So we didn't have to play any of the good teams in the sectional. We snuck by somebody else doing the job for us. And then we tried many times to get through the regional, lost in 80, lost in 85, lost in 86, lost in 89, lost in 91, lost in 92 in the regionals. And it was like, oh, we're never getting past the regional. And then finally 93, we sneak through and get through the regional, get to semi-state. And now that's our next hurdle. How do we get through the semi-state? We are a game away from the state in 94, a game away from the state in 97. This is with one class. And then finally, class starts in 98, the year after that 97 team that would have probably cakewalked through 3A. 98 and 99, we're now in class baseball, and we can't even win a sectional back in those first 2 years. And then 2000s come around, and we can't get through Plymouth. Somebody's always beat us in the Plymouth, and then it just happened. The 94 team, we get to the state championship and lose 3-2. Can't think of the first baseman from he's a pitcher from New Pal who not only I can't think of his name right now, but he was undefeated as a pitcher, gave up one earned run the entire year. And all we talked about, hey, if we scored 2 runs, we did a great job. We scored 2, we're up 2-1 going into the bottom of the 5th. And the pitcher hits a 2-run homer, we lose 3-2. And then 05 comes around, and we don't have much of a team, but I get a transfer in from Chittard, Joe Mack, who ends up hitting 2 on my team and is the all-time leading hitter at Andrean, and Greg Yursich both come into that program that year. And, you know, we get to the state championship and we're playing Memorial, and I remember driving down to Jasper to watch Memorial play because they had a rain out. And it was like, you know, Jasper from Northwest Indiana, there's no easy way to get to Jasper.
No, there's not. There's no easy way to get there from Evansville, which is 45 minutes.
So we're watching them play, and we're driving home and think, I think we could beat these guys. So we play them in the first inning, and Greg Yursich comes to fruition in the first inning. They got a man on second base and a base hit to right field. And I don't know why Quentin holds them up, but he holds them up at third. They throw to the plate. Guy who hits the ball is trying to get the second, and Greg, go try to get the second. Greg is one of those guys who's going to wait you to get 5 feet from second, then he's going to throw the ball just to show you off his arm. So he throws the guy out. Probably should be down 1-0, and we don't, But so we come up in the bottom of the first, get a leadoff guy on base, and Joe Mack hits probably into a double play. The umpire calls him safe at first. So, okay, we got a break. Tommy Finn, my number 3 hitter, walks. Now we got first and second, 1 out. Greg Yursich comes up. He strikes out. We got first and second, 2 outs. Probably should be out of the inning. We scored 10 runs off of it after that. And we go up 10-0. And again, probably we shouldn't have scored if the umpire would have probably made the right call at first. And ironically, how ridiculous is this? That kid who gave up 10 runs in the first inning pitched the complete game against us and didn't give up another run the rest of the game. I mean, would your dad or anybody leave a pitcher in that gave up 10 runs in 1 inning?
Hey, was it Steve Obenchain?
I don't remember his name.
Around that time, it would have been, I think he was, I want to say it might have been Obenchain because he ended up pitching for my dad and brother at Evansville and ended up being a 3rd rounder his junior year of college.
Well, I don't know if that was, but again, we got hits after that. After that point, there was no more errors. It was single, double, triple, homer, single, whatever. We did a lot of things, but it shouldn't have been that way. And I know it's going to probably stay a state record, scoring 10 runs in the first inning. And again, we're playing against legendary Quentin Merkel, too. Remember that. This is a guy that's been there many times, and here's Dave Pishkur in there for a second time, never won a state championship, and just honored to be on the same field. And we didn't play at Victory Field. We played at Loeb Stadium because Victory Field was being used that day. So it was kind of different. But it was the longest game of my life after that 10 runs. It was like, was this game going to ever end? We beat them 10-1, and gosh, it took forever after that first inning.
Hey, Rick Odette wants to know what the difference is between the first one you've won and the last one you've won.
Rick Odette, what a great guy. That's one of my favorite guys. He coached for me one year. He was my pitching coach. Awesome. He's at St. Leo now. I don't know if what the difference is. We've had some really good players. Not that team wasn't good. I don't know. I think class sports has been good for Andrean. I'm not going to be one of these stupid guys that say, you know what, if we'd been in 4A, we'd win 8 state championships. We've been in 4A for 4 times and for 3 different championships or 3 different runs, and we won a sectional once, got beaten a sectional twice. So not that was our best teams. And I always say this. Obviously, we might not have won a state championship at 4A, but then people in our area are always quick to say, yeah, you're 3A, you're 3A, you're 3A. But Jasper, who has won both in 4A and 3A, we played them for the state championship 2 different occasions at 3A and beat them both times. And nobody ever questions their significance in this thing because they've done it at 3A and 4A. We just haven't done it at 4A, and maybe we might never, but it's sure fun to be at 3A and win it once, every once in a while. But
yeah, Coach Gobert likes to remind me that Jasper won the last single class state championship in Indiana. It wasn't.
And Terry's an awesome guy, awesome coach, and he's won it at 4A and 3A, and now he's back at 3A. And I told him the other day, why don't you stay at 4A where you belong? They're sitting at 1,000 kids, and we're sitting at 400. But yeah, there's been some great memories, and the state championships are all they're all unique to their own game, and there's always somebody that stood out in each one of those games. And I think in the 8 state championship games we've played, we've given up 11 runs in the 8 games. So obviously our pitchers have done pretty well, and we've played well in the big moments.
And a little help, I think about when we won it too. Like you need some help too. Like
you absolutely
do. There's not. It's not all luck. You have to have talent, but there has to be some things that swing in your favor a little bit here and there. And that's the magic of winning a championship. Is there's some things out of your control that happen to try to push you along a little bit along the way. You got to seize the moment. But I think that's the key to any championship team is you're going to get a little help from the universe at some point too.
Without a doubt, there's no question. The best team doesn't always win in baseball.
Yes.
I mean, it's just there's too many little factors that play into that game as opposed to maybe basketball and football where you always got your quarterback. I don't know if it was Schreiber who used to say this, but you get down to the 1-yard line, you're going to give the ball to your horse. You're down with 1 second or 1 possession going basketball. You give it to your best player. You're down 2 runs and your number 9 hitter's up the bat right now. You can't say, hey, I want somebody else up there. It is what it is. The baseball gods have to help you sometimes.
You took some time off in '99. Did that recharge your batteries a little bit?
You know what? My mother passed away in the end of '98, and that was really hard on me. She was obviously the closest person that I've ever been to in my life. And it kind of carried over to the spring, and we weren't very good in '99. And, we had some decisions we made. We had a starting second baseman that was a senior. And after 1 week, I said, I've seen enough of that. And then we put a junior. I've seen enough of that. And I started playing freshman. I said, we're going to start building. And I caught there was some pushback from some of the parents. Like, I still remember when, hey, the game has passed you by, coach. The game has passed you by. Time to get out. But so I did take off like, 5 games or so and let my assistant coach. And I would usually sneak to the ball game and watch it from a place where nobody knew I was at. And I don't know. It was a tough time for me. I was just getting over so many different things. And I don't know if it regenerated me or I just needed some time.
That's what got Coach Merkel out, by the way, was the parents.
Really?
Yeah. I was furious, by the way, because I love the man. I mean, I would not be in the position I'm in if it wasn't for Coach Merkel, because I needed a guy like him in high school. I was a good student, worked hard, but not where I needed to be a college athlete. And I'm just lucky that I played for Coach Merkel because I needed someone like him to push me every day and get the most out of me. And I still remember my senior year. I think we're like 18-0 at this point, and I played okay, but coach goes, hey, I want to talk to you after the game. And so I sit down. It's just me and him in the dugout at Memorial, and he goes, some days you're a college baseball player. He goes, but some days you can't play for our team. And he goes, you need to be more consistent. Like, you need to get going. And, I needed somebody to tell me that.
I wonder how many other stories that Quentin and Schreiber and guys like that there's guys who are your age and my age that's saying, man, that guy really was, he was a big part of my life. And I don't know if they say that anymore.
Well, he got me ready to
But,
play for my dad and brother then too. Like I
okay.
spent 2 years. I played freshman and then JV, so I didn't have Coach Merkel. But then junior and senior year, I played for Coach Merkel, and I needed him because then it made playing in college much easier. And you look at his history of putting college players out there. He had
Mm-hmm.
a long track record of college and pros. Look at Mattingly,
Sure.
but he had a long history of putting college players out and could care less if you went and played college. That was the interesting thing about Coach Merkel is guys on our team would get college letters. Coach Merkel wouldn't give them to you. You couldn't do that now. You would get fired now for stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that because he just didn't care. Like he produced so many college players and good college players without caring about getting players to the next level.
There must have been that generation because Schreiber said, hey, it's not my job to get you into college. My job is to win in high school. That was that was what he told. And I've said the same thing. I said, not my job to get you into college. Your job is to get you into college. Well, I'll prepare you as best as I can, but somebody's got to see you. But it's a whole different ball game. Scouts used to come watch you play. They don't come watch you play anymore. They wait for the summer. And now the summertime, we have everybody going to Grant Park to watch 15 games at one time and to watch the Bulls and the Canes and all the super teams. As opposed to, I remember Iowa State coming in '85 and coming to watch us play, and they said, "Hey, is there any other good teams around here that I could come watch?" And that wouldn't happen anymore.
My my senior fall, I got a letter from Virginia, and so it was a questionnaire. So I took it in. I had health class with Coach Merkel, so I took it in the questionnaire, and he looked at me like sideways because my junior year was like up and down. It was just okay, and he looked at me like, "Why are you giving this to me? Like you're not a college player." Did you ever think about coaching college?
No,
No,
I did not.
not even
No,
a little bit.
probably not. No. Probably the reasons why I kind of had an idea what it would take, and it was more of a year-round thing. And the summer is really important to me because I am an avid golfer, and I like to have some time to do that. And you listen to some of these college coaches, and
You can't
they're
golf.
no or
Maybe in the
seldom. I
fall.
mean, and
Maybe in the fall.
they're not with their families a lot. And even the 3 months when I was coaching, my wife had to do a lot of the stuff that I wasn't able to do. That was my job. I needed to coach. I had to be at practice. And when my kids were going through little leagues, and if it was a night game, yeah, okay, make that night game, or sometimes a Saturday game or a Sunday game. But if it's during, we got a game or practice, it was her job to get them there, and I couldn't have that be the whole year round. Where okay, here comes the winter and they're playing basketball. I got to miss their basketball. Here comes something else. So no, I think I was too much of a family guy to kind of take that away, take that opportunity to watch them grow and do the things that you want to see them. You want to see them. They want you to be there. I can't remember a little league game that my mom and dad weren't there. So I didn't want to be that guy, and I did miss some of their games, and it was kind of tough. But no desire to be a college coach.
Has high school become more of a 12-month calendar, though, coaching in high school?
Well, it is without a doubt. It is, but it's still, you're not putting in that kind of hours where it's all the time. It's 12 months. I think about it. I say this and people don't believe me. I think about it every night before I go to bed. Either what's the future, what are we going to do, what's our lineup, how could we make them better? And it's could be January, it could be August, and you're always thinking about things like that. What could be a new drill? I think if I quit doing that, that might be the indication that maybe you shouldn't be doing this anymore. But as long as I do that and enjoy practicing and all that, I think I have a few more years run at this thing.
And that's what I'm enjoying about my job now, too, because my son's in college and he lives in Asheville. I went over there and we hiked the Blue Ridge Mountains, on Friday, which I would have never been able to do as a college coach. But his girlfriend was there, and I said, hey, she goes, man, it's a long drive. It's only 2.5 hours from here to Asheville. I said, hey, I've done some 10-hour driving days where I would drive 5 hours, watch a game, and drive back 5 hours and get home at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I don't think I did that with the Jasper, and that was enough for me. That was just one time. That was a 4 hour there, watch a 2 hour game, head back 4 hours. That was my 10 hours. And I can't do that on a regular basis.
What pillars, standards, or philosophies have you kept over the years?
Um, on our outfield fence, we have, and this is Vince Lombardi, so I'm not going to take credit for it. Obviously, it says God, family, Andrean baseball in our outfield fence, and we talk about that, and that's the importance, and that's what we should be doing, and that would be the number one pillar without a doubt. We put that on our stationery. We talk about that before every game when we meet down the outfield. We always end up with, hey, remember you're playing for God, your family, and make sure that you're respecting Andrean baseball. So I think that's the biggest thing. Not treating it as a job, but there's certain things that you want them to have discipline. We have to be there on time. So they know that if they're late, there's going to be some consequences. And that's the way it is. They know that there's responsibilities at the end of the game to do this. I have to take care of the mound. I have to take care of that. There's more of those little things that are involved with baseball that people don't always understand. We have to hustle. We'll do when you've been around a long time. And I just remember when we had Team Indiana, some of the coaches we'd meet together and we'd say, hey, what's your favorite drill? And one of my friends from Michigan State called this drill out, and so we call it the Michigan State drill. And it was a hustle drill. So you put your 9 guys out in the field, and the pitcher has the ball, and the pitcher and at the same time, you have 9 guys in the bench. Pitcher has to throw the catcher throws to whatever base, but eventually has to go around through all 9 positions in a time position. And if anybody drops the ball or any ball hits the ground, you head off the field. Well, the outfielders have to make it from outfield to infield to into the dugout in 12 seconds. The infielders have to make it off in 5 seconds. That team coming on has to make it. So every once in a while, when we're not hustling, we'll do the Michigan State drill. And they don't understand why are we doing this? We're doing this because it's the way you're supposed to play the game. You talk about like Pete Rose. Well, who's Pete Rose nowadays? I mean, probably Mike Trout hustles like Pete Rose, but a lot of guys, it's a 45-foot sprint. Hey, caught the ball. Okay, it turns into a jog. We don't want to play that game that way. We want to play it with passion and competitiveness and desire and hustle. And sometimes you have to get that across to them because in the summer programs, they might not demand that. So, I'm playing on a really elite team, but we're not practicing. We're just playing, and we're not hustling all the time on and off the field. And so that's one of the things I think that's important to us, that we have to carry ourselves like a ball player would carry. Again, that probably came from Schreiber, probably. Maybe I've changed some of the things, but that's the way his team played the game. That's the way, gosh, I'm trying to think of the name, Kaiser from Oak Park River Forest. Remember him?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those guys they were instrumental. And if you played them in the summer, you watch how they played. Jack Kaiser, yeah. I think he's actually was born.
That Harvey Foster named the All-Star deal that he used to run. That was like the first part of the summer before the Team Indiana stuff. The first part of the summer, Harvey Foster would run another one, and it was called the Jack Kaiser Classic.
Oh, really?
So it was all the conferences in Illinois would bring like their best players to play. Yeah, it was a really good event. Again, I don't think they have it anymore, but it was a really good event. All the conferences in Illinois would bring their best players, and they would play.
So one of the early 90s, we started our summer program when we're playing South Bend Clay, and that's Jim Reinbold, again, another legendary figure. And we're playing, and I said, hey, I got a question. What do you want to demand out of these kids in the summer? And he basically read me the riot act. He said, you demand everything that you did in the springtime, you demand it in the summer, and then more so. I go, okay, okay, we're going to do that. But I think it was like when and again, I was probably 12 years in coaching, but you're always looking for somebody to tell you something that might help your program. I still do this every summer, except I didn't do it last summer. I'll call somebody that either we play or I respect and say, can we meet for 3 hours? And I can't tell you some of the guys that I have met for 3 or 4 hours and just basically asked them everything. And our program is changed because of those individual meetings. You can go to a clinic and you hear a guy speak, but then he goes off to a room, you don't hear him anymore. You can't and ask him any questions. If I met with Gordy Gillespie was one of the guys, I had Gordy, kind of want to talk baseball with you. So I drove out to Joliet and we talked for a good 2 hours, and I wanted to pick up the tab because nobody picks up the tab in Joliet when I'm here. But what a great 2 hours that was with the great Gordy Gillespie, and talking about no lovey-dovey baseball and the things that Gordy did. And again, another mentor of mine that I never played for, but he was at every clinic and he was always the MC and he would always give a story. And what a great coach. He was a great football, basketball, and baseball coach. I mean, probably the best amateur coach of all time.
Have you ever read the book The Servant? You talked about Lombardi, but one of my favorite quotes is, it's actually in one of my presentations that I give for coaches clinics, is the book The Servant has a quote in there from Lombardi talking about loving the people in your organization. And, everybody thinks that Lombardi was like this hard, which he was, hard exterior. But even a guy like that is talking about loving and the way he phrased love was from an accountability standpoint. So, like, when you have somebody late, what are accountability things that you do? Hopefully nobody shows up late, but it's going to happen every once in a while. What are you using for accountability?
What are we?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, just in terms of like time?
Yeah, if somebody's late.
Well, if somebody's late, we what we do indoors, we call it a towel drill. So they come in there 1 minute late, you have to run towel drill. You're 5 minutes late, you have to run 5 towel drills. And a towel drill,
it's tough. Anybody who doesn't know what the towel drill is, it's
horrible. Yeah. So they're not, the first time they're late, or we'll get a kid that, he gets called out in classroom and a teacher calls me and say, hey, this guy's, and they always come to me. If it's a baseball guy, they don't go to the dean, they don't go to the principal. Let's go to Coach Pishkur. He'll take care of them. So if somebody does something wrong in class, what we'll do is we'll put that kid on midline and the rest of the team will run a towel drill in front of him. And boy, does that send a message like, man, I just screwed up. Look what I did to my teammates over there. And you do that once during the year, and that kind of like, I think I better watch what I'm doing. We just had prom this last weekend, so I'm just waiting to come back to school Monday. Like, okay, what do we got? What do we got? What happened?
That's where you hope your seniors eventually take care of it. That started to happen at Western Illinois. I was there for 7 years. But about the middle, the seniors would start to take the younger kids under their wing and be like, hey, do not do these things because this is what's going to happen. So, like, their peer group, in a good way, kind of cleaned a lot of that stuff up beforehand, because word of mouth, it's like, hey, if this happens, this is going to happen. Like, in the team meetings, they would be like, hey, this is not BS. Like, coach, if there's accountability that needs to happen, this is going to happen. So it ended up cleaning up a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, you do wish your seniors would be those leaders for sure. And oftentimes when you're really successful, that is the case. We left them with, LSU head coach. Oh boy.
Skip Bertman.
Skip. He used the acronym BEST. B, whatever I do make me better? Is the E, is it can make me more efficient? How will it make me stronger? And finally, how does it affect the team? And we kind of will leave them with that at times, make the decisions, but understand this is bigger than just you. And for the moment, you have to kind of think about what your actions are, what the consequences for your actions could be. And there's a lot of times spring sports have to deal with stuff that others don't. We have prom, we have graduation, we have graduation parties, we have the weather all of a sudden turning from spring to summer. We're graduating. All these things are now being inundated to this kid who now is getting thrown off his routine. And it takes that special person or that senior to kind of keep them in check. But we've had some difficult decisions to make because of decisions that they made. And hey, they're 18 years old. They're going to make mistakes, right? But there still has to be consequences for the mistakes that they make. You try to prepare them for them, but they're still going to make mistakes. Heck, we still make mistakes, right?
I used to tell them, like, hey, I don't want to be that person, but if you need help from an accountability standpoint, I'll be that person. Like, you don't want me to be that person, and you need to do things right, so I don't have to be that person. But if it gets to a point where I need to be that person for you, kind of like Coach Merkel was for me, like, if I need to be that person for you because you can't keep yourself accountable, I'll be that person. You don't want that out of me, but I'll be that person for you if you need me to.
Yeah, we kind of, in the month of May, we kind of turned the program over to the kids and said, this is your team now. This is your team, but still my rules.
Hey,
So
from a tempo standpoint, I got this from Coach Dom. When we got to Iowa, the culture was not good when we got to Iowa. And so he's like, hey, we're going to do this cone drill. So we split them into two teams. He put cones all over the field. We timed them on and off the field. So they had to get on and off in 11 seconds. But as their team, so the two-sided teams, as that team, they ran to each cone as a team. So we would time them. Obviously, center field is the roughest one, or right
bad
field if
one.
you're going to that dugout. But
Right
I
run
took
to the
that
third base
to
dugout,
Western Illinois with me too, and it was amazing how much that cleaned up guys getting on and off the field, because they knew if they didn't do that, we were going to do that drill in practice at some point. Like if we weren't getting on and off, we would time them on and off of the field. Like we had a pitcher time them off. We would actually put it on the card, the lineup card, on and off the field. So what the times were to track it. But they knew, like, that was one of the first things we did in the fall with them was that cone drill. And then they knew if guys started to slack getting on and off the field, we were going to probably do that for practice at some point.
Yeah. Now, was there any taking them out of the game or anything if they didn't, or you took care of it at practice?
Yeah, I took care of it at practice. Yeah, I got this from Keith Gutton at Missouri State, longtime coach. We got to the Missouri Valley my sophomore year, and we had played. My dad had played Missouri State along the way on like spring break, but we got in the Valley in '95, and the league was really good. The Valley's really great, but Coach Gutton, he had a player late. Now, my dad and brother would have never done this, but he had a player show up late for batting practice, and my brother asked him, like, hey, how do you handle this? He goes, well, it's the Monday morning rule for me. He goes, I don't do it during the weekends. He goes, I'm not cutting my nose off to spite my face. He goes, I'll handle it on Monday.
That's sort of the way Schreiber was too. He wasn't going to do anything in that game, but he'd take care of you. We played in the state championship, and this is a great kid. I'm trying to think what year, baby, 2014, I believe. The kid strikes out his first time, and he's upset and kind of walking back to the dugout and goes out to the outfield. And the second time he strikes out, and I see him walking to left field. Before he got to shortstop, there was a new left fielder in the game, and I took him out. And I don't think he understood. He was not hustling, not because he didn't hustle. He kept on thinking about his bat at bat.
Yeah, he's taking his bat to the field.
I put a guy in left field. I don't know if he played left field for me that whole year. And he went out there and he caught a fly ball for us and actually hit a ball hard in that game. But the message was, I don't care what game we're playing in. This is not how you're going to play the game. And walking out in a state championship in front of, 2,000 people, whoever it was, just wasn't Andrean baseball. Ended up being a really good kid. He didn't come out for his team his senior year. It was like, okay, you embarrassed me or whatever I might have done. And it was really not that. It was you kind of embarrassed the program a little bit. And we're not going to accept that.
Coach Merkel pulled me mid at bat my senior year. We're 11-0 at the time. We're playing in Edwardsville, Illinois. We always went over to Illinois.
Oh, great program. Was that Pike?
That's when Edwardsville was rolling. So we actually,
Pike?
The year before we went over to that same tournament, we were playing Edwardsville, and so Robbie Kent and Ryan Barrett and those guys were seniors my junior year, and that team was really good. We lost in the day game of the state championship, so we were 29-0. But we're tangling up with Edwardsville in a game, and they had won like 42 in a row at this point. And we are beating them in like the fourth inning. It unloads. The skies open up, so it's not a complete game. So we would have ended Edwardsville's streak at that point, but we didn't because the game got rained out and wasn't a complete game. But we go back to that tournament the next year. We're 11-0 at this point, and we're playing Lincoln High School. Lincoln is the first college slider you had ever seen. Lincoln had a really good arm. I don't know who the kid was, but it was a real college slider. So he is mowing through us. We're down 11-1 in like the third, and so we're going to take a strike. And Memorial took a lot anyway, but I brain farted and I swing first pitch. Coach Merkel yanked me. But I re-entered and we ended up walking them off later.
Wow.
Oh no, I drove in the game-winning run.
Okay.
But that's the good thing with high school is you can re-enter. So, but I had no problem with Coach Merkel. Like, we're taking a strike. Okay, we're taking a strike. Like, I brain farted. It was my fault. But that was probably the difference between my junior year and my senior year is because I didn't handle Coach Merkel the way I needed to my junior year, which I did my senior year. But it wasn't his fault. It was my fault as a person and a player. I needed to adjust to Coach Merkel. He didn't need to adjust to me.
We played, speaking of Edwardsville, they played Andrew for a state championship in somewhere in the 90s, and I had the videotape of it. And their leadoff man, and if you remember playing them, they were a dirty team in terms of their hats and the uniforms.
They
At the
used
end
to
of the
bang
game,
in the dugout. They were like a softball team. They were banging
they
bats
were.
in the dugout. Like I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen anything like that before.
So in the very first inning, there was a guy on third base for Edwardsville, and they had like a deep sacrifice fly. Like he's going to score easily, and he dives into home plate, dives in the slide in head first, where it's not even a play, but he gets up and pumps his chest, and he goes back to the dugout, and they're all going crazy. And for many years, I've showed that to my players. That's a ball player. I mean, he wants to play the game. He wants to play the game hard, and I just like that. I've heard some things about that program that I wasn't aware of, but I just liked how hard they hustled.
They had Edwardsville had a shortstop that ended up going to Missouri State after that, and in '95 when we got to the Valley, Steve Schlemmer, it might not his last name's Schlemmer, but he hit 40, either 38 or 40 home runs his junior year at Missouri
Whoa.
State.
No, this guy,
They had a
I
first
can't think
baseman named Steve Hacker. They had a guy one went 38 and one went 42. So they had
my
two
gosh.
juniors. Yes, it's pretty good.
But you know what? The funny thing is, I don't remember his name, and I probably will at some point. But if I could ask those kids from '94, '95, they'll tell me that kid's name that we used to single out. And I'll make a call after. I say, what was that kid's name? And they'll tell me it was so and so. But that was some of the things that you did to try to say, hey, this is how we want to play. This is what we want to do. We want to be that team that plays hard. And sometimes they just don't understand it. And the game is a little bit different. And you make that comment about, you're taking a strike and you swung at. It's amazing how many things that we do wrong that you just took for granted that they would know. Like, so we'll do this thing. So this happens almost every year. So we get bases loaded, man on third base. We'll do contact almost all the time with one out. Even if I don't care, they're playing in, we're going contact.
We did the same thing. No outs we were seeing through, but one
Right.
we were flying. As soon as you read it down off the bat, we were flying with one out. Take our chances.
So we call that Bobby. So instead of saying contact, we just called it Bobby. And long story for that. So we'll get the bases loaded, and I'll be coaching third base, and the kid will come say, hey, we got Bobby on this play.
Of course we
No, if it's a ground ball, let's hold up and see if he catches it so they can throw you out of the play. What do you mean, do we have Bobby on this play? But that'll happen every single year.
I work youth camps still, and so those are some of the things. They give me the base running because nobody wants to deal with base running with the young kids. So I do base running segments with the young guys. But that's one of the things that we talk about is contact rules and force outs and all those things, tag plays, just to get them kind of thinking the game a little bit. And that's why, anybody says that the game of baseball is slow. It's not slow. It's not slow for a coach. It's not slow for players.
No.
It might be slow for fans, but those are the small things that you have to think about when you're playing.
Well, we'll do, 3-1 count, 3-2 counts, man on first and second will be going automatic. Unless we call it off, we're hit and run because he's going to put the ball in play. It'll be first and third, and we'll have it on the guy on third base. Am I running? Oh, it's not a force.
Hey, don't feel bad. I used to get it from my college guys too. Don't feel bad.
And I was like, you just think we go back and the coach said, were we this dumb when we
double
played the
steal?
game?
It's a first and third double steal.
Yeah.
What have you adjusted to? Have you adjusted anything?
Yeah, technology. I mean, technology was not part of the game, and now we have the iPitch, we have Synergy, we have Rapsodo, we have all that stuff, and I'm starting to understand that a little bit more. I've never been a tech guy, but I never wanted the kids to suffer because I didn't understand something. So if there's something late and great that's going to help us, we're going to find a way to purchase that. So technology would number one, no question about it.
What is your favorite of all of the new stuff out? Because I read you had KVest too. So like
I'm bad at KVest.
Well, don't feel bad. Most guys are still trying to wrap their head around KVest.
Yeah, I think my favorite is the iPitch machine. So we played for the state championship. So the semi-state we're playing. What are we playing? We're playing Newcastle, and they got a kid going to IU that's topping out at 92. So in that week before, we're hitting 94 off the iPitch, and first day is like, man, we're not very good at 94. By the day 5, we're hitting 94 without any problem. we rocked that kid. We beat him 12-1 and just dominated. So the next week, now we're playing Buchanan's for the state championship in Brebeuf. He's considered the best pitcher in the Midwest. He's hitting 96 and he's going to Vanderbilt. So now we got this IPitch and we're at 97 during the week. Okay, well, that's good. We're going to go one better than what he's capable of doing it. And again, that first day, it's like, whoa, we can't hit 97. This is way too hard for us. So we work at it, we work at it, we work at it. And, we're not bad at the end of the week. We start off with that game, and my leadoff man, who's just a tough-nosed kid, he goes breaking pitch, 1-1, hasn't seen his fastball, throws him a 1-1 fastball, and if not for the wind, he hits a home run at left. I mean, he drives that out there, and the wind kind of brings it back, and that catches against the wall, and he's coming back like, no, and it's like I think we got 8 hits off of that kid. Probably if we're back in the old days and we had to try to throw from 25 feet just to simulate that, it might not be the same. But that you're 60 feet from the mound or 57 feet from the mound, and you got that fastball, but you also can throw that changeup or a curveball in there because you just have to push a button, and now we got a different pitch coming. And that has changed. I mean, do you remember when you took
Yeah, you're training over like that. That's the way you should do it. Is you're making training harder than the games. Coach Merkel used to put we didn't have iPitch but we had a jugs machine, and so you were hitting off the jugs machine on 10 just about every day in the cages. The jugs machine was going to be cranked up to 10, and you're going to have to figure out how to get your barrel on the ball with high velocity back in the early 90s.
But most batting practices in the old days, releasing, hey, we're going to just throw and you're going to hit and you're going to feel good about yourself.
We didn't take batting practice.
No?
Never. Not once.
Okay.
I don't know if I still don't even know if Coach Merkel could throw BP. Not once. Any sort of stuff that we hit live ball, we threw to each other. We threw tennis balls at each other. We threw wiffle balls at each other, and then high velocity machines. But we never saw a get me over, try to hit your barrel ball ever.
No, okay.
Because even in our stations with wiffle balls and tennis balls, we were trying to get each other out.
Well, he was ahead of the time, because that's now basically Driveline says you can't make this easy. You got to make it tough so that when the game comes around, it becomes a lot more easy. So we've kind of adjusted that, because our batting practice, we threw batting practice every day. It used to be, all right, let's go. Just, we might say, hey, first round opposite field, and second round, we might do something. We have some rules to it. But it was never tough. Everybody's can hit this batting practice.
So are you using the iPitch on the field?
We do.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Are you fundraising for that? Is that how you're getting everything?
We do, and we just have some very nice donors. We've got people, and it's sometimes just being nice to people. So
develop a relationship. I got that from my dad. When I got into this thing, he goes, hey, don't ask for anything. Just develop a relationship with them, and eventually they're going to come to you and ask you what you need.
So the year before, I'm not teaching that, but I'm coaching at Andrean, and this golfer is now going to the state finals, and the golf coach can't take him. So he can't play if he doesn't have a moderator. I'll go with him. I like golfing, so we golfed together the day before, spent the night, and he golfed and whatever. You end up remembering that. I can't tell you, and he's done well for himself, but he has bought the iPitch for us. He has bought other stuff for us, and never once do I ask him. He just and I asked him one time, I said, why do you do this? You didn't even play baseball. You were a golfer. And he kind of remembered that story. And we've got several other ones that are just like, hey, what do you need? And that's very, very nice, and Catholic schools, 60 years old, our facilities aren't the greatest at all, but we do have every modern technology that you need, we have there. And so you're going to be able to be coached up and get the latest and the greatest, but you're not going to play on a $2 million, new turf field with all the bells and whistles, hopefully someday, but right now, no. But yeah, it's important. And then
how do you know when you want to add something new? Is that when you're reaching out to coaches and talking to them about stuff that they're using?
Oh, absolutely. You make your calls to your friends in Indianapolis. Okay, you got one thing to buy. What are you going to get? And everybody this year said synergy. So, tell me about this synergy. And I went down there and they showed me it, called synergy. And now we have that set up in our place, and it is pretty cool.
That's how I got a Mark Pro for our guys at Western Illinois, because I had a high school coach friend of mine that had been using it for a couple years, and he was going to come down and watch us practice in the fall. And I said, hey, bring your Mark Pro down with you. It's a recovery device. And so he brought it down, and our guys used it. And that's how I added Mark Pro in for our pitchers.
There's so much out there. The national clinics, it's more fun for me to go to the national clinics and go around the exhibits and see what all the stuff they have than it is to listen to the speakers, because I get that on anytime I want to. But man, it'd be nice to have that unlimited budget, because there is every year somebody so smart that's creating something that's really cool.
How are you handling your multi-sport players? Being at a Catholic school, you're going to have kids that play multiple sports. How are you handling your multi?
Well, and it's small. Again, we have 450 kids in our school. And so 200, it's a co-ed, so it's 220 boys. And so we tell them right off the bat, you play as many sports you want. We're never going to tell you not to play a sport. We're never going to say, hey, you got to concentrate on baseball. But it's just the world, it's changed. I think of our 22 guys on our varsity roster, probably 17 play baseball only. And then you got a couple football players. We don't have one guy that plays basketball and baseball anymore. They play football, which isn't bad. Football, little break, baseball, basketball, kind of as it goes, it start overlapping into baseball, and they see what we're doing. They don't want to miss that stuff.
Any soccer players?
Boy, we never get soccer players. Not that they don't seem to play baseball at our school. I mean, I might have had 3 soccer players in my 40 years.
I think that's the difference between the North and the South in Indiana, though, is like, I think soccer, because it's in the fall, I think more teams play, because Memorial, that was the 2 best teams at Memorial, was soccer and baseball. And so that's why I played soccer also, because that was the best sport there. And if you look at the girls team at Memorial is probably the best dynasty in of any sport out there. And I'll put that against any state. Memorial High School girls soccer probably has won more state championships than any other program in the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Memorial girls soccer is awesome.
Yeah.
Ty Neal wants to know if you'll play Carmel next year.
Is he there now?
Yes.
It's every year there's a new coach at Carmel.
Because him and Rick Odette those were the 2 guys I reached out to about questions, and so Ty threw some questions and Rick did too. But then Ty goes, "Hey, ask them if they'll play Carmel."
We would love to play Carmel. We used to play.
All right, Ty, you better be listening to this, because you better pick up the phone and call Coach Pishkur.
So we played in the Carmel Invitational 3 years in a row, and we won it 2 times. But here's the bad thing about the Carmel Invitational. Now, Ty wasn't there at that time. He was probably at IU or whatever at the time. So they have 2 fields at Carmel. One is the varsity field, and the other one must be their JV field. And they have 2 pools. So 3 teams come out of one, 3 teams come out. So Carmel stays on their good field for the first 3 games. We got to play in the garbage field 2 games. And finally, if you win your bracket, you get to play Carmel on the nice field. Well, that happened. We played on a varsity field twice out of all those years of playing, and we played Carmel both times, and we beat them both times, which was nice. But I did one time when that was opening, somebody from Carmel asked me if I would be interested in that job. And I said, no, no, that's a tough job. Tell Ty, you look at that school.
It's a wealthy area.
That might be the only
Memorial and Carmel, the only thing, because Carmel was just okay in baseball back then, but Carmel and Memorial used to tangle up for the state championship in soccer a lot.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, that was the huge rivalry. Them and North Central. North Central had really good soccer back then too. So it was Memorial, North Central, and Carmel were always the teams banging away at the state championship.
Carmel's girls swimming team has won 35 consecutive state championships.
They're probably a little better than Memorial.
Well, I mean,
I'm glad you checked me on that.
Yeah, but they've won so many. But the only sport they've never won a state championship in has been baseball.
Yeah. And they've had some good talent there too.
Oh yeah. I think you have to win when you're at Carmel.
How are you handling the weather early? Because for me, Indiana is like 2 different states with the weather. So how are you handling the weather early in the year?
It's terrible. We went out and scouted yesterday, and I wore shorts on, and I was freezing. I was in the bathroom half the time because there was a heater in the bathroom. It is miserable. It either rains or it's in the 40s. And it's the point where you can't, you tell the kids control what you can control. control the controllables. Well, you can't control it. And I think after 40 some years, I could deal with it better, but it's frustrating that it's nice all day. And then at 3:15, here comes the rain. Or you got 4 games this week and it's going to be 40s, 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 40s. And it's not fun playing baseball in the 40s. But we do take the first week during our spring break, we go down to Nashville and play 4 Tennessee teams. And it's like 25 degrees warmer there. And we come back home, we're 65 in Tennessee, 70 in Tennessee. And we come back home and it's 42 degrees. But at least we've got 4 games in that we wouldn't have got if we played. So I don't like it. The turf fields that's why they're becoming more and more prevalent, that you can get rain all day. And if at 3 o'clock it's not raining, you can play. And in our days, you just couldn't play. Or our field, you can't play.
We dealt with that at Iowa. We dealt with it at Western Illinois. How are you keeping them competitive? So, like, yes, you go to Nashville and you play 4 games, but you may have to go back in the gym when you get home. Like, how are you keeping them competitive?
That's the one thing you want to do. You got to try to keep it competitive. So we do a couple things. Early in the season, I spoke one year at a convention. We call it the game. And the game is a sport. It's a thing that the kids, some of them really love playing and most of them hate it because it's going to involve tons of running. So the game it's a simple game, but it ends up being a mind game. So what we'll do is we'll be inside our floor and we'll put all the infielders at shortstop. And it'll be just as simple. We're going to hit you a ground ball and you're going to throw to first base. And as long as it doesn't bounce in the ground, we're good to go to the next guy. All 7, you have to make the play. If one of you mess up, the entire team goes to the line and we run full court back, half court back under 16 seconds. I'm telling you, we've ran 45 of those in a day before because they start making mistakes. Sean Manaea, who's pitching for the Oakland A's, was notorious. So I put Sean as the last pitcher always. Sean had the yips in high school. So we would have,
Great career at Indiana State.
Oh, he was awesome. And he's done great. He's done well. But he could not throw the ball in the gymnasium. So we would do, here we're going to go 123 double play. So 7 pitchers get it done. Here comes Sean, bounces in and throws it over the kid. Here we're running. And we always make the guy who is the most important guy on our team go last to put the most pressure on him. And the things were so simple, but it was the idea, if I fail, this is what has to happen. And then
did he ever get better at that?
He did. So I go to watch.
That's the thing that I talk about all the time. Like, you got to put them in uncomfortable situations, and eventually you got to stop. You got to stop. This is what I tell the guys. I'm like, you got to stop focusing on screwing up and focus on accomplishing the task. There's going to be pressure on you in games, practice, whatever, in life. You can't focus on screwing up. You have to focus on what you're trying to accomplish.
So true. So true. So I go to the Cape Cod to watch his. So he's gonna break the strikeout record in the Cape Cod League. But so I go there. My whole family goes with us. So we're on vacation, but we go watch him in the All-Star game. He's pitching the first inning. He strikes a guy out, walks a guy, picks the guy off of first base. I'm like, Sean could not do that with us. He picks a guy off of first. So 4 days later, he's going to break, I don't know whose record. And he needs 4 strikeouts to break the record. So I'm sitting behind home plate, and he's topping out at 93, 94, and he's just blowing balls by. And I'm saying, how is this happening? How's 94 getting by all this guy? And that's when nobody knew anything about spin rate back then, and it had to deal with that. So literally, it's like the 5th inning, he's broke the record, but he's got a no-hitter going. So they're saying, all right, let's keep him out. Let's keep him out. Here's the 7th inning, and they don't really want to pitch him, but he's got a no-hitter in the last game of the Cape Cod. Some big 6'6" guy comes up bat, hits a base hit up the middle. I look at the lineup, Aaron Judge. Yep.
I love
California playing. Yeah, had an infield base hit to break Sean's no hitter. And I asked Sean to this day, he remembers all that stuff, but I didn't know who Aaron Judge was back when he was a 21-year-old kid from someplace in California.
Sean pitched for Coach Heller at Indiana State. Now just got his thousandth win with Iowa.
Yeah, I reached out to him earlier this year about something, but yeah, Sean really loved him, and Sean transformed his body. He was 6'5", 180 pounds at Andrean, 6'5", 240 pounds when he left Indiana State. So they did something right with him, and his 88-mile-an-hour fastball ballooned up to 95-mile-an-hour fastball, which happens when you get older and stronger, right?
Yes, when you put that type of muscle on, you're going to throw harder.
Yeah, but he's just an awesome kid too.
Do you have a fail forward moment? Do you have something that you thought was going to sidetrack you, but looking back now was one of the best things that happened to you? Everybody has to answer this one. It's the lone question that everybody has to answer.
Yeah. All right. I gotta think about this.
It always throws people
The
for
thing
a
that,
loop too.
yeah, it did. I wish you'd have gave me some preparation on this
That's why
one.
I
So
don't send the questions out.
something that failed me, but I
That
ended up
maybe
working.
somebody the way I kind of reframe it is for successful people. I don't think they look at failure like people that are unsuccessful look at failure. I think they look at failure as a learning opportunity and a growth opportunity. So have you had anything along the way that maybe from the outside looking in, somebody might view as a failure, but for you was a growth opportunity?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I don't know if this is going to be what you want. The first thing that comes to mind is the many times we failed in the sectional and regional games to get through that first one. I mean, it took 15 years to win a regional championship, and then took 24 years to win a state championship. When you become better, your goals are changing. So when first year at Andrean, hey, we want a sectional. Let's win 15 games, have more than a 500 record. Well, that happened, but every year as you get better and you put your stamp on the program, your goals are greater. Well, our goal was to get through the regional after year one because we won the sectional, and it took 14 years to do that. And then after the regional, hey, we got to get to the state, and it took another 9 years to get through the state, or 10 years. So I think that was the perseverance. Like, hey, this could be done. We can do this thing.
Hey, how did you stick to your
It hurts.
guns? I mean, a lot of coaches, at that point are like, okay, maybe we shouldn't be keeping kids accountable. Maybe we should let them do whatever they want because we haven't won it. How are you able to stick to your guns? Because I love the fact that you're still doing what you should and you stuck to your guns, because I think every great coach does that. How are you able
Well,
to keep pushing along, be like, hey, this is the way we need to keep doing things, even though we haven't maybe had state championship success, we've had some success. How are you able to just keep pushing along?
I don't know if this is going to answer, but this is one of my motivating things. You'd always go to the state championship games. You're always going to regional games. You're watching these, and I have seen coaches that do nothing during the course of the year. I mean, they don't do anything to make their kids better. They just happen to have some talent, and they get down there. They became my motivator. Like, if that guy can do it, certainly we can do this. I mean, they don't do anything, so we got to keep pushing. We got to keep pushing because it's there. And for every one of those guys that get there just by perchance, there are those guys that are just grinding every day and getting there on a regular basis. The Jaspers, the Memorials, the Laportes, the South Bend Clays, the DeKalbs, the Lafayette Jeffs, those programs that you really want to model yourself after. You know what they're doing. You can't, but it irritates you to no end to see somebody who doesn't do anything that gets there and like, man, that ticks me off. So we stayed the gun because we stayed with what we knew was going to be true, and that's to do the things the right way.
You love golf, but you're in a tough area for golf, by the way.
Really bad. I played college golf. So when I go to Purdue Cal is just an extension of Purdue. It's in Northwest Indiana. So the very first year I'm going to golf because golf is in the spring and in the fall both, and baseball is just in the spring. So I play golf in the fall. In the spring, I play baseball, and I don't like it as much as golf anymore. It's taken forever. It's cold as heck in the springtime for baseball. So after my second year of playing baseball, I just said, I'm playing golf both in the spring and the fall. And I did that. And our senior year, and I think this is the way a lot of to be all conference, all you have to do in the conference match is be in top five. That's how your all conference guys are the top five scorers in the conference match. So the conference championship. So we had 3 of the 5 in there, and I don't know if I was number 2 or 3 or whatever, but I was in the top 5. So my claim is I made all conference golfer because I had one really good day in the conference thing. So not as good a golfer as I used to be because I'm getting too old.
Do you have any other morning or evening routines that you do that you like, that you feel like help you stay on top of everything?
I don't know if I do anything consistently. I do have a golf simulator in my garage, but I don't use it as much as I should. And in the wintertime, you could use that thing every day. I do like to walk the dogs, but don't walk as much as I can. I do have like all the workout things in my basement, and I'll go through a period where I'm going to do that for a month, maybe 2 months, and then all of a sudden I get out of that routine. So I don't think I stay with anything long. And if I did chair yoga for 2 months. I thought, I want to do this forever. I haven't done it for
I
a
love
month.
yoga. I love it.
Yeah.
When I'm going good, yoga's a huge part of that in the mornings for me. When I'm on top of it and going well, yoga and meditation are huge parts for me
Yeah, I
in the
wish I
morning.
could do meditation. And I have two granddaughters now. So one's almost 3 and the other one's going to be 1. So that changed a little bit too.
We have
Fun.
2 dogs as well. One is a cattle mix. It drives my wife crazy because I'll take him out in our backyard and kick the ball around with him because he's a work dog, so he has no turn off.
No, those are,
He
yeah.
would chase that ball until he died, actually. So I have to put it up because he'll drive himself nuts with that ball. So, but
Mine will chase it and he'll bring it back, but he won't give it to me again. So it's
no,
like, okay,
no,
now I got to
he's
chase
going
him
to
to
show
get it.
you has it, and you're going to have to work to get it back from him.
Right. And but he'll chase it the whole time. But yeah,
Yes.
I got both of them are golden doodles. So they're good pets. One's older, 10 and kind of set in her ways, and the other one is just mischievous as can be.
What are some final thoughts or something I should have asked you that I didn't?
Um, you know, I don't know. I think one of the things that is the relationships that you've built over time, not only with your players, but with coaches, within your conference, within the state, within the state tournaments that you go to, with the clinics that you go to. I'm really good friends with John Maley, who's was a hitting instructor with the Cubs, and good friends with Stone from the Cubs, not Steve Stone,
Justin.
but Justin Stone.
Stoney, good dude.
Yeah, I mean, just great baseball people that are always there to help you. That you've made the friendship because of baseball, and then since you persisted in asking them questions, and they became like your friend. I remember calling Justin and John, and we met at John Maley's house in Cherville and talked hitting for 2 hours. And I guarantee I did not say one word in those 2 hours. I just listened to those two debate, and they always didn't agree on anything, but now they're both at the same organization and such great minds. And, Stoney is with all this new technology, and John just gets better and better every year, that when he comes back at the end of the year, hey, John, what'd you learn? Well, Dave, it's not all about mechanics. It's about this. It's about that. It's preparation. It's mental stuff. Those stuff that when you're at that high level, talking to Rick Odette, those guys, they're at a different level. Their game is different. How they handle people are different. You could learn so much with an hour conversation with any of those guys, that I think those relationships that you build, that you could reach out to one of those guys, that would be awesome. I'll leave you with this. I called one of my players. I called the coach from UIC the other day, McDermott.
Coach McDermott.
Yeah.
Great dude.
And I started talking, and we started, he knows about Andrean baseball, but we're talking. He says, we just started shooting the bull, and said, yeah, I'm tired of working on the field. And he goes, hey, you know what? Whenever you want to retire, you let me know. You'll be my bench coach. Coach, I never even met you.
But winners win. He knows.
Yeah, but
winners win.
that got me thinking, like, that might not be a bad gig at some point when I decide to go.
You need to go south. If you're going anywhere, you should go be the bench coach at Evansville. You can play golf all the time. And
yeah, I need to be the bench coach for Rick Odette. And
yes, that's it. Yeah, you need to
I know
go
I can
all the
take
way
his
down
I can
to
take his
Tampa.
button golf too.
Tampa, yes. Tampa's way better than Evansville, Indiana, from a weather standpoint.
Yeah.
Well, Coach Pishkur, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. It's a Sunday, so I appreciate you. I know you're busy in the middle of the season, but good luck. And if you do play Memorial in the state championship, please let Memorial win, please.
You know what? If we get to Memorial in the state championship, I'll be excited to get there again. I don't know who their coach is now, but I would always
Rip Collins. He and I grew up together, so he was on the '89 state championship team.
Okay. I'm sure I've called him for information about teams from the South in the past. But if they play us, I guarantee we do not score 10 runs in the first inning with 2 outs. I guarantee that for you.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Ryan. Take care.